Well, I am fully convinced that the ECOWAS region is firmly within the African energy scene. Now there's a change taking place in Africa in which the ministers of energy meet very often. And by coming to this meeting, which I try to be within the ECOWAS ministers, I've been within the African energy ministers for some time. But the meeting clearly shows me that the ministers of the ECOWAS region are fully aware of what the issues are. Yeah, thank you. Now, to get the private sector to be involved in an energy sector, you, as a government, you have to be very, very particular, because there is what is called the public interest. The public interest has to be defended, and it is only governments that can do that. Private sector is profit, is to make profit. So therefore, that is why governments set up regulating agencies. And what you will notice now is all the West African countries are setting up agencies. In my country, I succeeded in setting up a regulator just about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and Parliament approved it. And this is not unique, it is true for all the West African countries. They now have regulators, and it's the regulators that would ensure that you have public interest. Because if you allow it with private sector, they can keep increasing the price. And we know that this part in the region, the income levels are low. And people have to afford electricity, because electricity is not only for rich people, it's also for poor people. Well, I'll talk in the general African situation. Because of our independence, colonization was concentrated on the big cities. And when we got independence, most of the governments followed the same pattern. Now what is happening, we're moving to the rural areas. But you cannot set up anything for the rural areas if you do not have dedicated programs for rural areas. Because of 3 reasons. 1, people do not have enough money. 2nd, they are very dispersed. Thirdly, manpower is not there, because most of the able people leave the rural areas for the big cities. So these 3 factors require that you should have special programs for rural areas. And in Sierra Leone, what we are doing is to set up special programs for rural areas, because the whole orientation of rural electrification is different from that of urban areas. No, you see, the point is, the role of government is to ensure that everybody has electricity. The role of agencies, and at times NGOs, they concentrate on what you call the least resistance, where things are slightly easy. It is the role of government to ensure that everybody goes to everywhere in the country. So we as a government, we tend to develop policies. For example, we can come up with promotional policies that would entice or create incentives for these people to move to the rural areas. First of all, there are 2 problems. 1 problem, we do not put too much emphasis on data in this part of the world. So the truth is, we don't know. What we are using is what you call intelligent guesses. Now that's 1. But 2nd, the amount of people not having access to electricity, I'm not too surprised, because that is what is responsible for our low development. Electricity should not only be used for household, but should be used for productive uses. And since our productive base is very small, industries are small, that shows that you are not using enough electricity. So it is not only to get the 30% and the 60%, but to shift the use of electricity to productive basis, that is using electricity to make money. You use it to make money, then from the proceeds you build your electricity. Because don't forget, electricity is good business. It's no joke. It's not a charitable organization. It's business. But it is the role of government to make it profit. So some of these profits can help government to expand the use. Oh, I'm very, very supportive of the area. In fact, they'll be visiting Sierra Leone in the next few weeks to work with me to set up our regulatory agency. I think, as you mentioned prices, I still mention that you need governments to justify, to make sure we have public interest satisfied. It is the interest of the wider public is the role of government. Because don't forget, governments get into power by public. People have to vote for you. And when people are satisfied, they vote for you. So we have to get those people electricity. And it is the regulator that will help us to get those people to get electricity. Well, the free market, this is not the time that you have to be very excited with free markets, because the free market in the world is collapsing. Now, but let us look at the electricity market. The situation we have now is the investment that the government needs to provide all the power that we don't have it. So if the government do not have the power, then private sector has to come in. So therefore the market has to be open. The only thing the government has to make sure is to make sure that the independent regulator does their job. That's the important aspect. Well, the thing about technology, it is changing. So there is what we call a technology change, and it is affecting everybody in the world. So African countries cannot afford not to be part of it. The responsibility again of government is to capacitate your people so that they can cope with the new challenges of the new technology. But not to just say, oh, these technologies are changing. They have to change. That's the whole purpose of technology change. And we train, and when you say government, it's not only government, but the institutions of government. That means university, technical colleges have to cope with these new changes. For example, computerization. Before, when you run a powerhouse, you will see so many people running around. Now it's only 2 or 3 people because it's all computerized. So it's changed. And you have to change to suit it. So you have less number of people, but at the same time more efficient. You are quite correct. In Africa, we are blessed with both fossil fuel and renewable. All the energy sources that you have is in Africa. And we are using, that is why the overall policy of Africa says, use all energy sources. We are not discriminating. Say, I use wind, I don't use solar. What we say is, look at what you have and use what you have before you import. If you already have it, use it. And we, even nuclear, we do not rule out any energy source in Africa. Some are more expensive to convert. I'm happy you mentioned solar energy. I always describe to people, solar energy is like a beautiful woman. Everybody admires, but nobody wants to marry that woman because she is expensive. That is solar energy. So you find solar energy is not as widely used as people would like it, purely because it's expensive. But the good thing is the price is coming down. So as the price keeps coming down, more people would afford So, well, one thing about engineering is not only about successes. Engineering is about successes and failures. The only thing is you should learn from your failures. And that is why you have to encourage everybody. Even when things fail, you learn from it. And it is for you as the decision maker to make use of that. Secondly, everybody is useful in Africa. We got to learn that. Everybody, every African is useful. You should, at this early stage of development, you don't discount people. Even in politics, your opposition people are useful. You can use them. And you use them, if you are skillful enough as a manager, you make use of the people around you. I think there is so much resourcefulness in Africa that we should not allow anybody to keep, as they say in politics, drag everybody on. Take people along the road towards success. Well, my relationship with WAP is good. For simple reason, I have been a university professor all the time. And I've been preaching that it's only through cooperation that Africa will solve its problems. And WAP is a way towards cooperation. So definitely I will work now as a minister to put into practice policies I've advocated, I've taught students about, is to make it happen. Take it to the next level. I think WAP can do it. The only thing we need to do is to think of strategies that will make us move faster. Think of strategies that will help us to optimize investments, because to do it costs money. So therefore, we have to look at all the forces that are available to us and optimize it and use that for the benefit of all Africans. Well, he's been there since it started. He knows what the problems are. And therefore, I think it's suited because you need what is known as continuity. People who know what the old files are. It's always nice to have a young hot head because of one idea, but you don't develop organization by just one or two excited ideas. You develop an organization with a whole set of ideas. People who know, who have looked at the back files and can maximize those. So I think Monsieur Diallo has been doing a very good job. It is left for us as Council of Ministers to support, because you see, we should not forget, we are in a race. There are so many other people in the race working. And if you keep struggling about personality now, you're left behind. Now it's moved forward. Africa is a changing continent. And this is the time for Africa. And we don't have time now to start arguing too much. We just want to implement and develop. I think we have to use the principle that every African is important, especially for we in politics. Let us don't drive away people. Let's encourage the African, even your enemies, even the opposition. Let's use the best out of them and get the best for the continent. I think that for a long time, Africa has been sleeping because the major animal in Africa was sleeping, and that's Nigeria. But finally, Nigeria has woken up. And now that we have woken up, let us work with Nigeria, because Nigeria controls significant portion of West Africa. So let's work together.